So now we are gonna go to the types of questions in practice and what is gonna be the dynamic of this part of the course. I will pass here the exam you are gonna be doing there, and what I will ask you to do is to pause the video to answer question by question. Take a piece of paper, take a notebook, and answer there. 1, A, 2, B, all right? Then once this is finished, I will correct explaining each type of question, all right? So you will use the methodology in your practice and in your correction. Deal? Great. So let's get started. Remember, you can pause page by page. And remember the methodology I just taught you. So remember to skim and scan the text. Remember the zigzag method. Here it is already organized for the zigzag method. Okay, so now we will go to the corrections. And I will tell you the way to approach this reading practice. So the first thing is we look at the text. What is the first thing we should do here? The first thing is to skim the text, meaning reading the most important things here, having an idea, and this should take maximum 40 seconds, all right? So what are we looking for here? So the title, so you understand that this text is talking about the origins of cetaceans. If you don't know what this word here means, it's all right, okay, because you will understand in context, okay? And then you should just read the first sentence and maybe a little bit in the middle, paragraph from paragraph. So the first one is, it should be obvious that cetaceans, so the explanation of the word is right here. Whales, dolphins, those are mammals. Okay, talking about type of mammal, marine mammal here. It's not easy to envision what a first whale looked like, so we are having an idea here of the origins, gonna be the origins of whales. So you already know that cetaceans are whales, okay? Great. Very exciting discovery have finally allowed science to reconstruct what would be the origins of the cetaceans, and we have a date here about a discovery. So you already have an idea that this text is talking about whales and the origins of it that date back the 70s. Now let's do the same with the other paragraphs. So the first word we have here is a fossil. So you know that we are talking about archaeological discoveries here, right? So we have the school in a archaeo site here. They are talking about the ancestors of the modern cetaceans. So it's gonna be about the ancestors of whales. And then let's see another discovery made in Egypt. So you see that they are talking about the different discoveries of fossils that happened millions of years ago. So when I'm telling you that you have to skim the text, is this. Do you see what I'm doing here? That's kind of like what you have to be looking for very quickly, looking at very quickly. And finally, an even more exciting finding, right, was reported in 1984. It was another type of early whale here. We're talking about the characteristics of the whales. Did those animals have legs before or no? Nowadays we know that whales don't have legs. And then they're talking about the tails, the fluke of a whale. And remember, you don't have to know every single word to understand the text and to answer the questions in the TOEFL. And finally, so we're talking here on land. So there is a early whale that would have walked on land, right? They are very similar to the modern sea lions. And that's it. This is what you have to be looking at when you are first getting in touch with the text. Once you've done that, you will go to the questions. And then is the time for the second S, which is scanning. So looking for detail paragraph by paragraph. So let's move on to the questions now. So question one. Question one is a rhetorical purpose question. So we will understand what the author wants to pass in a given moment of the text. Okay, so let's read the question and go to the answers here. In paragraph one, what does the author say about the presence of a blowhole in cetaceans? So, the presence of a blowhole. So, in the text, we have to find where the word blowhole is. And the word blowhole is here. So the tip is read the sentence around it and find the correct answer. So go from this part. The presence of a fluke and a blowhole cannot disguise their affinities with land-dwelling mammals. All right? So why did they use this? Why did the author use this word here? To show their affinities with the dwelling mammals here. So the correct answer would be letter B. And why is this one the correct answer? Because we have here, it cannot conceal the fact that the cetaceans were mammals. Conceal is a synonym to disguise. Those are synonyms here. All right? So that's how they are testing your vocabulary in the TOEFL to see if you understand synonyms. So the correct answer is this because it says the exact same thing as the text. All right? It cannot disguise their affinities with mammals. It cannot conceal the fact that they are mammals. A mistake that usually occurs in this question here is choosing letter A. It clearly indicates that they are mammals. Why is this answer incorrect? That's not the correct answer. Because we have the word clearly here. It doesn't clearly indicate that they are mammals because they have affinities, all right? It doesn't clearly shows that they are mammals. So always when we have words that are synonym, it's something that is showing that that answer is the correct one. Question two is an inference question. So in this question, you have to understand what is in the paragraph based on the information in the paragraph. So it's not something that you will find directly, you will find it indirectly. And I'll explain how here. So let's read the question. Which of the following can be inferred from paragraph 1 about sea otters? So we need to find sea otters in the paragraph. Where is it? Here. Sea otters. So as I told you, we have to read the whole paragraph, all what is around it to be answered, to be able to answer to this question. So, however, unlike the case of sea otters and pinpads, and then we have all the examples here, it is not easy to envision what the first whales looked like. So there are some key words here that you have to pay attention. And the words are unlike and not easy to. Those are negative words. So they make it a little bit more difficult to understand the sentence. So what can be inferred based on this sentence that I highlighted here? However, unlike the case of sea otters, it is not easy to envision what the first whales looked like. So it's difficult to envision what the whales looked like. And it is easy to envision how a sea otter would look like. So let's find an answer that brings this information here. And the answer here would be option A, okay? It is not difficult to imagine how what they looked like. So the key words are those here, and the word that is related to look like is envision. So just like the other question, we have another vocabulary point here, okay? The difficulty of these inference questions are all those negatives, double negatives that make it a little bit confusing. So you have to break the sentence and completely understand the sentence. In the inference question, it's not that easy to understand. You have to understand the meaning, and then you have to find an option that brings the same meaning in relation to that specific information, in this case, the case of sea otters. Moving on to question 3 here, factual information question. So this one, it's about detail. It's a detailed question about factual information. Okay, so let's go and see how we approach this kind of question. Paxetus and modern cetaceans have similar. So what are we looking for here? Similarities between the Paxetus and the modern cetaceans. So the paragraph here, it is talking about it, but we have to find out. So here we have the Paxetus and we have the similarity. So the word that we are looking for is a word that will remind us of the word similarity. And the word that will remind us of similarity is this. Okay? So cetacean is here. So reading this, I will read this sentence here for you. We will find the correct option here. So let's go to the sentence. Although limited to a skull, Paxetus fossil provides precious detail on the origins of cetaceans. The skull is cetacean-like, but, and then we continue. So what do they have in common? What is cetacean-like? The skull. And the option is here. It's never gonna be only the word, right? The skull shape. But that would be the only option that shows the similarity between those two here. Question 4 is a vocabulary question where you have to find a synonym to the word based on context. So let's see this one here. The word we have is exposed in the text. It's always gonna be in bold, okay? So it's always gonna be highlighted somewhere in the text, so you don't have to look for the word, it's gonna be there. And there are many ways that you can go about the vocabulary question. The answer is usually a dictionary answer. So it's a synonym, but it's a synonym that has to make sense in context, all right? It's gonna be very rare to find a question like this that is like a metaphor, that is a word being used not in the way this word would usually appear in a text. But it might happen, but it's usually a dictionary answer. Okay, so we have to find a synonym to the word exposed. The correct answer here would be letter B. Okay, it's visible. And this is a tricky question because I know lots of students choose other answers here. So, as I was mentioning, we always need to see the word in context. So let's read what is around here, all right? So let's start by here, Celosaurus, right? Celosaurus were found in the sediments left by the Tethys Sea and now exposed in the Sahara Desert. Why is it visible? Because in the past you had that sea that left by the TCC, so this sea doesn't exist anymore. The sea became the Sahara Desert and now it's exposed. Why? Imagine you have the sea here, the sea dried, and then we have the desert. So it's now exposed here. The fossil of the Celosaurus is exposed, so it's visible. Why the other options are incorrect? First of all, because they are not a dictionary, the dictionary meaning of the word exposed. And also, for example, if you choose identified, and also if you choose located, the word now makes it impossible to be located, because if you say something is now located, it feels like it was transferred to another site, which makes zero sense in context, because it didn't change places like a fossil, right? It doesn't change places. So let's think now in the dictionary answer, why it is visible. Exposed is something that is visible. So for example, if you have an exposed bone because you broke your arm and your bone is exposed, what does it mean? It means that the bone is visible. So this is the vocabulary question. Question 5 now, it's a factual information question. So we are looking for details here, right? So let's check it out. The hind leg of Basilosaurus was a significant find because it showed that Basilosaurus. So what are we looking for here in the text? We are looking for the hind leg of the Basilosaurus and the consequence of this finding. So we have to find this here in the text, and the hind leg is here. Okay, so we need to read around it. In this one, we will need to read a bit more to find the correct answer. Okay, so a complete hind leg was that features of a foot with 3 tiny toes. Such legs, so continuing talking about the leg, would have been far too small to have supported the 50-foot-long Basilosaurus on land. So what do we learn about this here? We learn that the Basilosaurus could not have walked on land because it would be too heavy for those tiny legs. Question 6 is a rhetorical purpose question. For this question, I recommend you paying attention to the whole paragraph, paying attention to everything in this paragraph, because here they will ask why a specific word was used, what was the purpose of a specific word in the text. That's why you have to read the whole paragraph differently from the others where you can find the answer kind of like around the word. This one, you need to read the whole paragraph. So let's check this one out here. The question is, why does the author use the word luckily in mentioning that the Ambulocetus natans fossil included hind legs? Okay, the word is always going to be highlighted in the text as it is here, but we are thinking about what is the relationship between this word and the hid legs, and why, like, what is the purpose of using this word here. So as I said, you have to read everything. Okay, so you will find the correct answer. I will show you here where the answer is. Okay, so the fossil luckily includes a good portion of the hind legs. Okay, and here we will have lots of details when we continue here reading it. You will have lots of details related to the legs. So the correct answer here would be letter B. The legs provided important information about the evolution of cetaceans. Those details here are showing, for example, here, how those cetaceans, those animals evolved from one thing to the next, from having those legs to the following characteristics of the modern cetaceans. So as I said, in rhetorical purpose questions, you have to kind of like understand the whole paragraph and why all that information was given there. Question number 7 is the sentence simplification. As you know, my favorite type of question. And why is this my favorite type of question? Because a very English teacher like question, because here they will be testing the use of grammar and the use of vocabulary to transform sentences. So I will show you in this example how the grammar makes a whole difference. Understanding the grammar of linking words and connectors will change the way you approach this type of question. So let's check out this one here. Which of the sentences below best express the essential information in the highlighted sentence in the passage? So we need a sentence that is a little bit more simple, but that express the same thing, and the sentence that has to be simplified will always be highlighted here. So you always have to read the sentence very carefully and understand the meaning behind it. So the structure of the backbone shows, however, that Ambulocetus swam like a modern whale by moving the rear portion of its body up and down, even though a fluke was missing. Okay, some words I want to highlight here. Even though and however. Okay, the correct option here would be letter C. And it's clearly testing the way you use connectors. The answer is, although Amsoletus had no fluke, a missing fluke here, right? Fluke was missing, so no fluke. Its backbone structures shows that it swam like a modern whale, and the answer is here. Swam like modern whales. The rest of the sentence is unnecessary to show the meaning of the sentence. So here they are testing to check if you know how to transform the connector even though to the connector although. And here we learn the use of although in relation to the use even though. Those two words, they have the same purpose in the language, in the grammar of English, which is to connect in a contradictory way, to show contrasts. So even though something, something, although something, something. That is negative. Question 9 is the sentence insertion question, where you have to insert a sentence in the text. Okay, so this one is different from the others because it's not a multiple choice. And in the actual exam, you will have to click with your mouse and put the sentence in the correct place in one of those squares here in the text. So let's see here how we'll go about this specific question. Look at the 4 squares that indicate where the following sentence can be added to the passage. This sentence here has to make sense in the context of the whole paragraph. Okay? It only fits one specific place. A tip on how to do this is always reading the beginning and the ending of the sentences. So always reading what comes here and what comes here to see where it fits better. Okay, so let's read all of it and see which one is the best place to put it. So first you read this sentence. This is a question that has puzzled scientists for ages. So we have this is a question that puzzles scientists for ages. And then where can we find a question that puzzled those scientists? The question is here, all right? How was the gap between walking mammals and swimming whales bridged? This is a question so that has puzzled scientists for ages, missing until recently were the fossils, and then you continue. So that's how you have to go about this sentence, and then you will insert in the correct place, just like we can see it here, and it makes sense in the text. With practice, this type of question becomes easier because you will learn on how like to add things, and I think we in the practice and the corrections, you will be able to get the hang of this type of question that is very specific for the TOEFL. And the 10th and last question is the summary question. And this one is challenging because this one is not related to details. So I want to talk, before we start here, I want to talk about some very important things for you to have in mind. The summary question is about the overall understanding of the passage. All the questions that came before, the method of learning them in the zigzag method is scanning. So looking for specific things, rereading the paragraph in detail. Since this one is not about detail, you have to go back to the text. Why? Because all the details are in your mind. And the tricky part of this is that some of the answers are correct, but there are details, there are minor ideas to the passage. So what I recommend doing is you read here the questions and then you go back to the text. Okay, so let's see this one here. We have here always the first, as we can see here, we will have always the first sentence to a summary. So these passages discuss fossils that help explain the likely origins of cetaceans, which are whales and etc. So here we have this idea in the first paragraph. So the other ideas are going to be in the following paragraphs. When selecting, you have to find something that gives an overall idea to the development of the text. What I recommend doing here is checking the options and seeing which ones are broader and which ones are too specific. So let's read it together. 1. Recent discoveries of fossils have helped to show the link between land mammals and cetaceans. Okay. The discovery of Ambulocetus natans provided evidence for a whale that lived both on land and at the sea. All right, okay. The skeleton of the Celosaurus was found in what had been the TCC, a rich area of fossil evidence. That is okay too, but this one is bringing a very specific detail, okay? Because this here we have had, even in a question we dealt with this. This is like a detail of a specific type of fossil. So maybe it's not incorrect. Maybe, but a little bit too detail. Question 4. Paxetus were the oldest fossil whale yet to be found. This is incorrect, guys. It's not yet to be found. It was already found according to the text. 5 here. Fossils thought to be a transitional form between walking mammals and swimming whales were found. So this is more general, and this is what the text is mainly about, right? About the fossils that helped the scientists understanding those transitions here. So, okay. And then question 6. Ambulocetus hind leg were used for propulsion in the water. Also correct, but also very specific. And we had a question about it. So as you can see, the previous questions might misguide you in question number 10. So my recommendation is go back to the text. Okay? Go back to the text and see what is detail and what is not a detail. All right? So the correct answers here would be 1, 2, and 5. Why? Because those are general informations that help you summarize the text. The other ones are either minor details or information that is incorrect. But when you are excluding, don't just exclude an incorrect option, because in this case, the only one you would exclude would be question 4, right? Option 4. And the other 2, 3, and 6 were also supposed to be excluded because they are minor ideas. They were detailed ideas.